Any way that you can discourage or distract your yard people from getting their equipment close to your beds, that's what you want to be doing. Any type of barrier, rocks, edging, signs, anything that directs them or keeps their trimmers further away from making contact with your bedded plants or hanging over your beds in any way. Just you want a buffer zone. Now right here along this edge, this plumbago is leaning over into the grass. And if I just allowed it to do that, the lawn people will take their trimmer, pick it up, and come in here and trim it to keep it from hanging over the grass. When they do that, more weed seeds that are on their equipment are going to get slung into the bed. So I always try to go an extra step in preventing them from doing that. It's going to fly off their equipment anyway, even when they do the edge. But when they keep it low to the ground and they just stay on the edge while they walk to do that, most of the weed seeds will stay that level too. Me cutting this plumbago is not going to stop the seed heads from getting in here, but it's going to reduce the quantity of seeds that get thrown in here. The better buffer zone that you maintain to keep their equipment away from your bed, the less weed problems you're going to have, because their equipment will bring in new weed seeds that you've never seen. Every year you'll have a different weed to battle, and in addition to the ones that you already have, and you just don't want to contribute to that. You don't want to have that. Anything that you can eliminate and make your life a little easier in that area, you should be doing, and that's definitely a step that goes a long way. Right now, that little edge may look less attractive. It will fill in and balance out within a week. But for now, the goal is, and the reason why I do that, is to keep the yard people and keep their equipment away from the edge. I'm kind of going to round it out, just round out and make that transition a little more natural looking, so it's not so obvious I came in here and trimmed. Because when the yard guys do it, they make a perfectly straight line. You can just see down the whole edge of the garden when they're trimming it. They don't consider anything else than following the edge that's there. So any way we can make that have a less negative impact is the goal here. So right here are some periwinkles that have come up from last year, and they've come up in the pathway. And in this pathway, they're not going to be able to stay here. So these are the ones I'm going to relocate to an area where I just moved coneflowers out from in front of a sprinkler. Now they are growing against the stone, but I'm going to try to get as much of, I think the roots actually might be a little under the stone. Hopefully I'm getting as much as I can, which I think I am. And when they're young like this, they're pretty resilient. They can handle a little disturbance. So I'm not too worried about disturbing those. So these are the periwinkles that I just dug up. They are, it's like these pieces of dirt are like little rocks. They're so hard. So these few have dirt around the roots, but you could see they came from conditions that were really dry. They don't have very established roots. So I think they're going to be happy for this upgrade. So this is another time that it's okay to move plants in the summer if they're growing somewhere that they shouldn't be, and you want to just try to transplant them, and you're upgrading their conditions. Right now, I know they were in full sun and growing up in rocks. So now they're going to still be in full sun, but they're going to have a nice mulched bed to grow up in. So I think they're going to be happy with this upgrade. So back here is where I put the coneflower, because it was right here in front of the sprinkler. And I'm just going to put these periwinkles here, so it's not an empty spot. It's going to go ahead and give me more plants to reseed here for next year, because there's not a really reliable plant here that reseeds besides cosmos. So I would love to have these periwinkles start filling in right by the border here, and then I don't have to worry about the sprinkler getting blocked. And I'm not sure what color these are. In this situation, I don't really care what color it is. It's just getting color along this edge, and it helps to keep weeds to a minimum. So I'm going to put them about 6 to 8 inches from the edge. So in my August garden tour video, I showed this autumn sage. And you see how it's all just leggy and branchy? It just doesn't look that great. Even though it's the hottest time of the year, I think this plant can still benefit from a light pruning. There is a general rule to never remove more than 1/3 of the plant at a time, and I'm probably going to follow that rule. Once I get in there and start pruning, I may run into something that makes me want to do something else. So the first thing I want to start with is there's a sick rose right here, and this needs to be I'm thinking I just need to cut it at the base and get rid of it. That's what I'm gonna do. I don't even want my pruners to touch it. I'm gonna go ahead and cut it at the base, get rid of it, disinfect my pruners, and then come back. Because this rose has been looking sick for a long time. It was planted right in front of a sprinkler head, which is never a good idea. It's also just among too many other leafy plants, and they just could never get enough airflow, I think. The way that I disinfect my pruners is I use a mix. Actually, I mean, I used to do a 50-50 mix. I used to use 50% alcohol, but now I use 70%. I don't wipe it off. Make sure and saturate every area of the blades. And I let it dry naturally. I don't wipe it. I just let it dry. The longer it stays there, the more disinfecting properties it has. I'm just switching over to a different cutting tool. That's why it's really a good idea to have various cutting tools with you, especially if you're a mobile gardener like me. And actually, instead of bagging these vincas as I cut them, I'm gonna throw them back in the garden. Now, this sage, you see how leggy this is? And I mean, this just got away from me, but I'm gonna take it back about this much. I'm gonna take it back in different areas at different different places on the plant. Because basically, again, I don't want the yard guys coming in with their cutting tools and coming in this bed to edge this out, because it stimulates the growth in a direction that I'm not wanting. So the key here is to make sure you leave some green on the plant. But this plant can handle a hard pruning. Summer is not the best time to do it, but I'm choosing to do it anyway because I believe there's going to be more benefit. The benefits outweigh the risks. That's just the best way to put it. And also, there's a lot of weeds in here that I want to get to. Now, I will need to come in with pre-emergent because since I'm exposing all this area to sunlight that's not used to getting it, I don't want to trigger, and I'm disturbing the dirt by pulling weeds. I definitely don't want this to start filling up with weeds because they would compete with this sage. So I definitely need to make sure that I'm staying on top of my weed management strategy. Now, if I could get this to kind of grow back where that rose was, that would be ideal. So I'm gonna not prune it as heavy in that direction. I'm just gonna give it a light pruning on the back part, but the part near the front edge is getting a really heavy pruning. It's getting a pruning and a weeding. The grass has been growing under here for quite some time. And I'm actually having to uproot some of this plant to get some of these weeds out, which bothers me a little. And since I have to do that, I need to be prepared. There's the possibility that I could stress this plant out and may need to replace it. But the grass roots, I think there's more grass roots in here than plant roots in some of these areas. You know, and sometimes you got to get to the root of the problem. That's what I'm doing. I like to get to the root of the problem here. And it seems like the root of the problem is intertangled with the biggest part of this sage root system. So that is that's not an optimal situation. And I'm not sure exactly. I'm gonna have to think about that for a little bit on what I want my approach to be there. See if I can just keep pulling it out from these little exposed sections without pulling too much of the plant up. Wow, that one went all the way back there. some of the plant roots are coming out with this. So I'm gonna need to put, there's gonna be holes in here. I'm gonna need to add some soil. But I don't wanna add anything until I know I've got these, this grass out. Okay, this one was going right under the plant. So that's promising. This one's growing under it in another direction. And there's nothing worse than when grass is rooted all within the roots of another plant. That's really a pain to deal with. And when it's roses, oh, that's really traumatic to deal with. But I always like to go from under the plant. I try to dig out around the base a little bit and stick my hand under the plant to find the roots rather than down in the crown. I think it's just a better approach, no matter which plant, but especially with roses, that's my approach. I don't stick my hand down in the center of roses. Now this isn't gonna look too great for about a month, but within a month, it should start filling in and looking something more impressive than this anyway. I'm gonna definitely have to come back with mulch. So these roots that were all covered with their branches before, but since I'm removing all those, I definitely need to come in with some mulch to keep the ground the same temperature, because it's going to be warmer from this. There's just no doubt about it. I just hope by the time I'm done weeding this grass that there's some sage left, because I am pulling up quite a bit of sage in this process when the roots are just that intertwined. Like I said, I hope when I'm done that there's enough sage here to keep growing, because I just keep finding more and more and more grass under here. Okay, so I still need to use pre-emergent because I disturbed the dirt, but it's not going to help my grass issue. I just wanted to make sure I clarify that. It's just to make sure the seed bank, other seeds that I brought to the surface, won't have a chance to germinate. So that's the progress for that spot. I've got as much trimmed back as I'm comfortable doing. And I've got my mulch. I guess I can go ahead and cut these kale back. Maybe I should do that. Yeah, I guess I could cut these back. We don't need these. Maybe I can find a periwinkle that's come up somewhere else and just transplant it right there, because now it looks really empty right here. Sometimes fixing one problem creates another problem, because all of this, the sage had to be taken back like that. It was just time, and I'm just gonna blow this mulch. The grass around here, it never ends, but now I'm extending into the roses, and I don't wanna get sucked into that. Now that I've got a good layer of mulch, I'm gonna come in with my pre-emergent, blow that in, and then water. Adding a few periwinkles behind it that I know won't obstruct it like the coneflowers were. And the periwinkles are annual, so they're really easy to pull up and move around. Over here, I cleared out this autumn sage. It was looking really sad, and you know, it's nothing special right now, but in a couple weeks, it'll start putting out new growth, and it'll fill in and look like such a better plant. And this whole area will be improved by that one change. Well, that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching. Feel free to leave any questions or suggestions in the comment section below, and I hope you'll join me again next time here on Garden Beauty.